What's up, nerds? It's me, Longy Long, the Ghetto Gamer. Today I'm gonna get eaten by sharks, I'm gonna get mauled by a manticore, I'm gonna get sucked into the endless void of space and suffocate, I'm gonna get torched to death by a dragon, I'm gonna torch myself to death, and I'm gonna jump down a well and break every single bone in my body! It's Shadowgate! Obviously! Our story begins in 1985 when the MacVenture engine was created to support Deja, the first game in the MacVenture series on the Apple Macintosh. This first-person interface may look familiar today, but when this game was being written, it was quite an innovation. Point-and-click adventure games were already pretty popular at the time. Sierra's King's Quest series comes to mind, and it seemed players couldn't get enough adventure. Deja not only met the market's demand for solid adventure games, it did it with a uniquely immersive first-person perspective. Gamers loved it, Deja was a hit, and so was its follow-up, The Uninvited, and the third in the series, Shadowgate, my personal favorite. The games were ported to most of the popular platforms of the day, including DOS, Amiga, and, of course, the NES. As a kid, Shadowgate was my first experience with point-and-click adventure games. The first time I booted it up, I could not figure out what I was supposed to do. Where's the jump button? There's not one. But once I figured out what was going on, I was intrigued. Like so many adventure games of the era, some of the puzzles defy logic, and the only way to solve them is through trial and error. And in Shadowgate, your error usually leads to your gruesome death, as described in the text box. These descriptions delighted and horrified me as a kid, and I'm surprised Nintendo even allowed them, given their insistence on keeping games family-friendly as part of their third-party licensing restrictions. Like I said, the puzzles are hard and the consequences are dire, but unlike most console games, you can save at any time. No checkpoints, no save points, no limited continues, no Konami code. I wish all console games had arbitrary saves. It's the one reason I eventually switched over to PC games. Don't tell me when to save, I'll save when I want to. Anyway, I find myself getting stumped a lot in Shadowgate and all adventure games, and I've never gotten through this game without using a walkthrough, but it's still a lot of fun, with decent graphics and a soundtrack that gets stuck in my head to this day. Shadowgate was successful enough that they decided to port the 3 previous MacVenture games to the NES as well. There was never a Shadowgate sequel on the NES, but there was a sequel called Beyond Shadowgate on the TurboGrafx CD. Remember that thing? I don't. It had like sort of brawler/adventure hybrid gameplay and really nice graphics. You could even call them TurboGrafx, I guess. Unfortunately, Beyond Shadowgate, like the TurboGrafx CD itself, was very quickly discontinued, and both are now very rare and expensive collector items, far beyond the scope of a mere ghetto gamer. A later sequel, Shadowgate 64, came out in May 1999 and featured full 3D first-person graphics. I thought this game was pretty good, and apparently it was well enough received that they started production on another sequel for the 64, but the announcement of the GameCube eclipsed that product and it was scrapped before it got out of concepting. In 2014, a crowd-funded remake of the original Shadowgate was released with generally favorable reviews. So that's pretty much it. If you like adventure games, Shadowgate is a classic. The whole MacVenture series is a classic, from the Deja, The Uninvited, and Shadowgate. In fact, every sequel I've played, every spin-off of Shadowgate, I've played and enjoyed. And you can get this game cartridge only for about $15 on eBay. If you want to pretty up your collection, I've seen it complete in box for about $30. Shadowgate 64 is a little bit more expensive, but still not out of control. Now, if you want to go beyond Shadowgate with the TurboGrafx CD, you're looking at about $150 just for the game. And the TurboGrafx CD itself runs for around $500. So, you should buy one and send it to me, and I'll do a show about it. Sound good? Anyway, I'm Longy Long, the Ghetto Gamer. Find me on Twitter at Longy_Long, and see you next time. I'll probably get mauled by a manticore till my entrails are hanging out of my guts.